Welcome back to our brick wall breakdowns with Kyron Samuels. These are our offensive line specialty film breakdowns, and we've officially named it. We're going to be looking at Isaac Seumalo today, one of the better guards in the NFL. He plays right guard for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he is probably a guy that's a little bit underrated. Now, I'm excited to get into Seumalo here, but first I want to introduce Kyron. For those of you who don't know, he is our insider and offensive line specialist here at Defiant Takes Football. He played offensive line in the Division I college football at Jacksonville State. He also played in the AFL, earned all AFL honors. So this guy knows what he is talking about, and I love hearing what he has to say about offensive line. Kyron, how are you doing today, man?
Doing well, man. Just actually left the field with some guys, so just finished working with some kids. So it's going to be pretty exciting to get back into this. So I'm excited to keep the O-line juice rolling.
Yeah, for sure. So we have done our Jawan Taylor episode, which as of now should be dropping in the next hour or so. It's ready, it just needs to be uploaded. And we're going to get our second show underway right now. So first of all, as we kind of get into Seumalo himself, he is a pretty big guard, 6'4", 303. So a little tall for a guard, but still within like the prototypical range. His leverage is still pretty good despite his size, good weight, everything that you need, good athlete. And he was taken in the third round, 79th overall out of Oregon State by the Eagles. He's been with them ever since. I'll just say, after actually watching this guy, which I have never done, I've never sat down and watched Seumalo tape. He is so underrated. He's on this offensive line with Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson and these guys who are all pros, and you just don't hear about Seumalo that much. But he was just so steady. Like, technique was really good. I was impressed and I enjoyed watching him. What are your thoughts on Seumalo before we jump into the film here?
I love Isaac. I actually, know him pretty well. We grew up in the same time frame, so we came out of high school at the same time. So we went to a lot of the same camps, a lot of that stuff. So I know him very well. So it's kind of crazy to see how much he's progressed. I mean, he was pretty highly touted in high school, but then kind of college, a lot of the hype kind of died down, and you saw like a lot of guys, other guys, kind of took the spot. But to see where he's at now, it's a testament to how hard he works, and I think that we'll see once we get to the film. He's a testament for how far technique and effort can take you, and that's what you'll see on this film. Because he's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, not the most athletic, but what he does is he puts himself in the right positions and he plays harder than just about anybody you can see on tape.
Yeah, when you're set right between Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson, who are both ridiculous athletes, you don't look like you're flying around the field, but he does a pretty good job. But his technique is really nice. I mean, he's a pro, just a pro's pro in terms of offensive line, and a big part of why the Eagles have been so good lately. So let's jump into the film here, because this is not going to be as long of a show as our last one was. I mean, I could talk about it for a long time, but I think just in terms of editing and time investment, I think 30 minutes is probably a little long for us. But all right, let us take a look here. Okay. All right. So I'll just let you go to it, man. Just tell me what you see, and I'll let the play run through one time from all 22 and from the end zone cam, and then I can run it back as many times as you need.
All right, yeah. So we got a heavy box here. I mean, you got a 4-3. You got you guys hovering around the line of scrimmage too. So these are things that you should just be on the radar. You should be noticing right from the get go. Just, you may be expecting a game here or not. Whether you get one or not, be ready for it. But they already allow him a lot of responsibility. So he's the communicator guy. He's the one getting the quarterback from the signal from the quarterback. He's the one letting Kelce know when to snap the ball. And you kind of see, like, that's just a play. I mean, they do a lot of gap scheme stuff, and they're just basing a run play off of that, a pass play off of the run play. It's how you build on things. So he's just going through his technique there. Nothing too crazy there, but he does his job. And I think that's what you see a lot, is that there's nothing that's probably going to wow you too much here if you don't know what you're looking at, but he does his job, and he plays with great effort and technique. That's all.
That's true, but also the other thing is he comes across the line, which on a pass protection play, you don't always see guards doing that. They don't always trust you to move over quickly enough to the other side and like pull, so to speak. But
For sure.
maybe this is just me being ignorant, but what is it called, like a pull in pass protection? There's got to be a term for it.
Well, there is, but there isn't. So I'll break it down really fast. Give you like a minute breakdown. When I was in college, we had a play called Georgia LA, which was a power play. I pulled on that play. If it's Georgia LA, then the guard on the opposite side will pull. So what we did was just build off of those concepts. You run the same exact concept because you want to suck the linebackers in, you want to suck the safeties in. So you run the same play, but we just called it a different play, called it purple or purple LA, which let us know that it was a pass play. So you run the exact same concepts. You want it to look the exact same because that's what's going to draw those linebackers in. So that's not necessarily a term for it as far as pulling a guard on a pass play, but you want it to mirror the exact same thing you do in the power run game because that's what's going to draw those guys up and create the mismatches and give you more space.
Gotcha. All right. Education is what I'm here for. All right. Next up, I believe I selected this because he's in 1-1 pass protection versus Chris Jones. I think that's why I put this in here next, but let's take a look.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I always talk about. Getting to some arguments on Twitter. A lot of people are like, "Oh, this guy got the backfield. This guy got like." No, look. This is the best defensive tackle in football with Aaron Donald out. I mean, he's in a wide three. He has a lot of space to work with. This is a really good rep. He keeps his inside hand strong. He keeps his post foot high. That is a good rep against the best defensive tackle in football. That's what it's going to look like more times than not. Where you're going up against people of that stature and that ability level. So for him to be able to just keep his inside arm strong, keep that presence there, and keep the outside foot, keeping your post foot high is one thing, but keeping your outside foot wide enough and not getting too wide to where you're overextended and he can make a move off of that is a skill. So the fact that he's able to mirror Chris Jones so effectively is a skill in and of itself. And even though he gives up a little bit of penetration, a little bit, that's still a great rep from him. I mean, look at the pocket. Jalen has, if he wants to step up and throw, he can step up and throw. If he wants to take off and run, which he chooses to do, he takes off and run and gets 11 yards. I mean, that is a good block play.
Yeah, I think you see a little bit. I mean, look, it's Chris Jones, so
right.
What do you want? But you see a little bit of his height where he's giving up a little bit of leverage. But again, it's a one rep, so not everything looks perfect all the time. All right. And then, of course, Jalen doing his thing. Okay, so we are in the red zone, and I believe I can't remember what this play is. I think this might be another pass protection play, but let's take a look.
Okay, we got a little.
Yeah. Okay, this is a nice play. All right, go for it.
Well, the first thing you can see is like it's very difficult to relay these messages and then get back into the run game. Like what he's able to do right here is almost as difficult as snapping the ball and then firing out of your stance. He's turning around, getting the signal from the quarterback, relaying it to Kelsey, and as soon as he taps Kelsey, watch how fast they snap the ball. But go ahead and you can let it run. This is basically a duo play, right? You get two double teams on the inside, and you'll see how great these double teams are. I mean, look, this is what you want. Look in the middle right here. You have 3-4 guys piled up in the middle, and you have 4 bodies moving them vertically. That's what that play is supposed to look like, right? So now the running back has a two-way go, essentially. He can go wherever he wanted to go there. But he does it perfect, right? So he splits the crotch, which is like, so you want to take half a man because you don't get vertical movement pushing against the defender with your offensive lineman that you're double teaming with. You get vertical movement pushing him forward together. So you can't take up too much of the body. You can't get on too far outside because then you're going to be pushing against each other in that aspect. You have to be split the crotch, keep the outside arm free just in case the linebacker spills off, or a game comes where you have to clamp it off with your outside hand. I mean, there's so much that could go on here within this tight space, and they do a great job of keeping their technique. This is what I say about the Eagles offensive linemen, and this is a testament to Jeff Stoutland. They are the best technicians in the NFL, and they have talent, right? But everybody in the NFL has talent in the offensive line. They have the best technique in the NFL, and that's why they're able to do these things consistently. And you're going to see similar here. This is pretty much the same thing, right? Great gallop step. He gets in there, and he just drives the double team. This is what it should look like when you're talking about double teams, especially in these tight quarters. He split the crotch again. He has his head in there via the neck. His outside arm is free just in case 50 spills over into the A gap, and you can let it run. You can see 50 come. Boom. He's right there. He comes off and gets him. I mean, that's perfect double team. especially in the red zone when you know it's going to be tighter quarters. So what allows him to do that is his technique, though. If he got too much of that block, right? If he gets buried underneath there, they will get great movement on the down lineman, but that linebacker has a free gap to go, and the D lineman does his job. But the fact that he keeps his technique, he keeps his outside arm free, splits the crotch, it's the V of the neck where he can see everything, because you can take half a man and still not see everything if your head's buried. So he keeps his eyes up, he keeps the V of the neck, and he keeps his outside arm free. That's textbook technique.
All right. Next up, it looks like they have just gotten the ball off of a kickoff. Well, they are at the 25. So, yeah, this is another one-on-one rep versus Chris Jones.
Gotcha. So getting into this one, I mean, look, it's tough to block Chris Jones when he's in that wide three. I mean, I would consider that a 4. I mean, he's literally, you might even consider that a 4 check. He's literally almost head up on Lane Johnson. So that's a tough block in and of itself. But you can go ahead and let it run. But I mean, he'll turn in and getting out of there. I mean, boom. What I love about Isaac is that his technique is he looks the same almost every rep, man. It's just what I said at the beginning. It's a testament to where technique and effort can take you. He keeps his feet square. He's mirroring pretty well. He keeps his outside arm free. I mean, he keeps his inside arm strong and keeps his outside arm attached. This is what it's like supposed to look like against a player of that caliber. It's not always going to be like a stalemate. You look like an all-pro every play. This is a good rep against a great player that allows his quarterback to get the ball off.
You know what I love about this play is, so Jones is clearly trying to get in the throwing lane there. He's trying to get his left hand out there. And so he's giving up a little bit of his balance and leverage. But Seumalo doesn't let him get away with that. He puts him on the ground. Like you don't let the defensive lineman get away with trying to get his hand up. You make sure that he ends up pancaked. And
that's just number one rule. Hands up, and you break those ribs, or you get them on the ground. That's one of the two. Those are the two options there.
All right. What do we got here?
Okay, boom. I'll talk a little bit here when we get to the end zone copy. I love the end zone copy. This is where I didn't watch a ton of all 22 when I was playing. We all did end zone copy. So you'll see we got a tight end attached here. So you got a little bit of help outside. So this is just a regular old zone play right here. But I mean, look at his step. He has a step in the gap.
Oh.
This is where the kind of the technique can I get you in trouble a little bit. Remember when in the first run play in the red zone, he kept that outside arm free and he was able to spill off a lot easier. But he gets a little bit more engaged there. This is where you can see the technique start to come into play. He has his outside arm engaged, and it makes it a little bit harder because the linebacker spills over the top. But what he does is he does a great job of adjusting on the fly. He gets that, he washes that guy off, he clamps him off, and he takes him where he wants to go. You can make things happen on the fly here, and he does a great job of that. A lot of people would have got discouraged right there and just stayed on the double team or gave up. He comes off and he clamps it off pretty nice. So even if that was a handoff right there, he could have clamped it off very well, and the running back would still have a two-way go up the B gap here or back up the A gap right up the middle.
Right. So I honestly think that he impacts this play as positively as you could ask. And this gap is filled, but it's not with Seumalo's guy. So He comes off the double and he's got his right hand comfortably on Bolton, and he does not let him get in there. So, this is bounced to the backside, but through no fault of Seumalo. And I love how firmly he gets his hand on Bolton. And I mean, look, that, you know what I mean? Like, he's there. He can wash him out. He can do whatever he's got to do.
And this could very well be a design, right? Like this is how you build off of things that you normally do. They run wide zone, they run some power stuff, and they get people moving. And then you come back and say, hey, I know we had a pass play when I was in college that, hey, we let them spill over to the gap a little bit and we clamped them off because it's a design cutback. So this very well could be one of those situations to where he actually played it perfectly.
All right. Couple more here.
All right, here. You got a lighter box, right? You've been getting 6-7 man boxes, then you get a 5-man box. So you might expect a little bit of pressure here. You might expect a little bit of games to get some pressure here. But he does a great job. I mean, look where he is right now. His hands could be a little higher, but his feet are planted. His post foot's high. He's ready for anything that comes right here. He gets a swim move from 6'5" Chris Jones. And look, this is no man's land, right? But you can go ahead and let it run. This is where that effort comes into play, man. A lot of people are just beat right there. I mean, he had perfect technique to start. He gets a swim move from one of the best D linemen in the NFL, and a lot of people would be beat in that situation. But that's where that effort comes. You just turn it into a run block at that point. That's what you're coached to do. Once you get to that point, you just turn it into a run block and you finish through it, and he does a great job of that. Again, Jalen has all the room in the world to step up and make a play happen.
It's also knowing your quarterback. Like, you know that you've created a lane for a guy who can actually make something out of it as well.
Okay.
All right, what do we got here?
Oh, this is beautiful, man. I love looking at it, man. This is just, that game was incredible. But
this is a Super Bowl, obviously, for anybody who didn't put that together.
This is one of the hardest things to do. Like, even if he is in the shade and he's kind of attached to you, especially, the Eagles aren't a very complex team, right? They don't do a ton of stuff. They work well off of what they do. So they can build, little gadgets or little misdirections or little tweaks off of what they do. But they run very simple offense. This is a very tough block to make. A backside cutoff is very difficult to do, especially against the caliber of players you're going against. So for him to be able to dig that out, cut that off, is just, but it goes back to what I said earlier. I keep saying it. Technique, effort. This is what you get with this kid every single play, and he's one of the best at it. But this backside cutoff here is great because that penetration could have allowed for Jalen to hesitate, to try to do something that is uncustomary. So for him to get that backside cutoff and allow for him to just have a clean vision, clean picture, and run in the end zone, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is just beautiful stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who this is. I think it's their nose tackle, but look at the size difference too. He's giving up a clear mass disadvantage here, but he still manages to make that block effectively.
For sure.
Actually, it might have been Chris Jones, but either way. All right.
All right, getting here to this little end zone copy. But again, you got a little bit of lighter boxes, so you might be expecting a little bit of stuff going on here. And you just get an inside move here. It looks like they're going to run a game here. You can let it roll. So yeah, they're running a little game here, but he does a great job of read and recognition. But that goes back to what I said pre-snap, right? You've been getting heavy boxes all night. You've been getting a lot of guys closer to the line of scrimmage. So when you do see a lighter box here, they're going to try to do something to dial up the pressure. And so you're expecting the game right here. He does a great job of passing it off to Kelsey and getting back over.
Can we also just appreciate this throw for a second?
Oh, yeah. Jalen answered every question about his ability in that football game. He probably was the best player on the field on either side of the ball.
Yeah, I think in that game, I can't disagree with you. All right. Gets pushed back a little bit here. Still gives enough time, but
right. But this is some of the stuff that, like, he's not a Quentin Nelson or a Joe Bitonio. He's not as thick as those guys, right? So he's giving up a little bit of size that these guys aren't. But again, this is what I say, like, the technique and the effort. The technique kind of fails him here. He doesn't time his punch very well. He doesn't really, do anything to dispel that pass rush. But what he does is he fights and he survives. That effort allows for Jalen Hurts to get this ball off. So watch the effort through the end of the block. He's struggling. He resets his feet, and he gets just enough. Even on reps like that, because it's like I said, it's not always going to look pretty. You're going against the best players in the world. So a lot of guys will just give up a sack in that situation. A lot of guys are on their butt, or a lot of guys just keep getting driven back, and then he'll get a pass breakup or he'll get a hit on the quarterback. He doesn't even hit the quarterback on this play. So for him to be able to, that effort is what sets him apart from a lot of people, even when his technique breaks down.
And I think you keep it, if you keep the effort up, it saves you just enough time for that. I think it's a left guard to come over and make an impact on that block as well, which gives Hurts time to get the ball out and go for a gain. Or I'm not sure with that.
For sure. Well, I'm glad you put a rep like that in here, because people need to know that it's not always going to look so pristine and pretty, and like it's not going to always be textbook. Like, those reps are important as well, because those little differences are that's the difference between a sack and then a guy like Seumalo who survives long enough to get the ball off, or for his teammate to come assist him and help him. Everybody doesn't have that effort and that technique in them where they can consistently do that, and he does. It's on film all over the place.
Yeah, and he's a consummate pro. I love that he sees everybody coming. I mean, I watched obviously many more plays than that, and you just don't see him get tricked by anything. You don't see him
Yeah.
get fooled. You don't see him miss blocks. The whole line was really, really good, but I obviously have a new appreciation for him because, like I said, if I told you that I watched Seumalo specifically, like in any great detail, I would have been lying because you
Right.
just don't have time to necessarily get to everybody. But this is kind of forcing me to do it, which is nice. So, he, I believe, is scheduled to be a free agent from the Eagles as well. They've got a lot of money to dole out. I mean, they've got to pay Jalen Hurts. So, I don't know if he's going to be back. So, he is going to make somebody very happy. The only thing with Sumalo is that he has had some injury issues. He's missed some time here and there. Nobody's healthy all the time, but that's the one thing. And I think at this point, he's 29 or 30, so he's getting up there in terms of age as well. And while that's not he's 29, so while that's not old by offensive line standards, you generally don't get
Right.
healthier the older you get. So
Yeah, the wear and tear
that's
is
just
definitely there.
it's something to keep in mind. But he is a very good player, and he is worth the investment certainly for somebody. Any closing thoughts on Sumalo before we close the show out?
I mean, none other than the Eagles should do everything they can to bring him back. The problem is, I don't know if they'll be able to afford him. I think somebody's going to give him a
Mhm.
nice 3-4 year deal here and try to lock him up. He's too valuable of an asset.
Yeah,
And he's,
I
I
think
mean,
so.
a lot of the guys that we've used to being stalwarts in there in the interior, a lot of those guys are getting older than, they're in their mid 30s now, or they're in their 33 type area. So um, he has a lot of value even with his age as well. So, hopefully he can get back because I love that unit they have. I hope they can run it back one more time with that unit before Kelsey and Lane Johnson decide on what they're going to do. I
Mhm.
would love to see that, but he's going to be a happy guy here in a couple months because he's going to get
Yeah,
paid and he deserves
you
it.
can get paid.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome. Another great show. This will be up hopefully at some point by midweek. You can find me on Twitter at TheMaxine. You can find Kyron at Kyron Samuels. Defiant Takes Football is at Defiant Takes on all social media outlets. Please visit the site. We're going to have player profiles. We're going to have articles, mock drafts, everything at defianttakesfootball.com. And of course, we go live every single Monday and Thursday with the Defiant Takes Football show. And you can also find more of these film breakdowns as well as our prospect film breakdowns there. That's going to do it. And we will see you all very soon.